All right, welcome to Ditch Digger CEO today. Boy, Chris and I are excited. We're pumped up, aren't we, Chris?
Oh yeah, big
We've,
time.
we've got somebody that I watched from afar and admired from afar, and never got to know this gentleman until I was blessed to get a call from him when I ran for governor, Chris, and I got to have lunch with him and his beautiful wife Diana, and so anyway, we'll get right to it. But boy, we got Don Beebe on with us today. Don, welcome to Ditch Digger CEO.
Well, I'm honored to be on it, Gary. I appreciate it, Chris. Great meeting you for the first time, but Gary and I have known each other for a little while now, and it's an honor to be on your show.
Well, we're excited. We're excited, Don. And the purpose is, we want to bring to light the blessings that we have in this great country to be all we can possibly be, right? With a lot of hard work and a lot of prayers, a lot of hard work, and the American dream that's accessible to all of us if we have the ability to work hard and get after it. And so your story is like one of the best, and so we're excited to listen to you tell it. And we know your story motivates so many, and our podcast is all about that. Our podcast, Ditch Digger CEO, is really just to get people to understand that boy, there's all different ways that we can have success, but probably not without God's help, without the help of a lot of other people, and that are brothers and sisters of our faith, right? So we're going to get going right away. So what I do is start, Don, kind of with your upbringing, right? Kind of where it started, what gave you this mindset, this competitive mindset, this mindset to work hard and all the things that it takes to be
Yeah.
successful at anything. So if you could start from there. I know that you played football in my home state here in Illinois,
Yeah.
and grew up with a great family here. So go start from
Yeah.
there.
So I'll start with my dad because when I speak at engagements, I speak on my father quite often because it's so important to have a godly father. And my dad, when he grew up, he was abused, and he lived with his dad, and from the age of 10 to the 18th, when Grandpa and Grandma got in a big argument, Grandpa said they're not my kids anymore, right in front of the three boys. And my dad was the oldest boy at 10 years old at that time, and from 10 to 18, Grandpa never said a word to my dad, and they lived in the same house. My dad would come home as a young boy and say, "Dad, listen," and he wouldn't even listen to him. Never heard his dad say he loved him. One of my grandpa's friends abused my dad when he was young. And so he grew up in a horrific situation. But at the age of 24, he gave his heart to Christ. He said he was going to raise his kids in a family home. And in a long story short, my dad literally is a living Abraham. Because when he dedicated his life to Christ, it changed the legacy of the Beebe name. And this is what I tell young men all the time when I'm coaching them that grow up in horrific situations, deadbeat dad or abusive dad or whatever it is. And that's a lot. I mean, it's a very high percentage of young men grow up in these circumstances, or girls. And I tell them, I said, change the legacy of your name that's on that jersey. Change it. And the only way you can do that, okay, is through Christ, because he will guide you and help you. And so that's what my dad did. And it got to the point, Gary and Chris, that my dad started this family tradition. Well, for one, we went to church every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, and every Wednesday night, youth group. So we were in church all the time, and we had no option here. Okay. You were sick? No, get out of bed. We're going to church. I mean, it didn't matter. We were going to church. So, but he started this family fishing trip when I was 5. 1969 was our first year that we went up there in northern Minnesota. We just finished our 55th year. Okay. And there's 62, 63 Beebes that now go on this trip, and nobody misses. Matter of fact, of the original 5 kids and their spouses, nobody has ever missed in 60 or in almost 55 years. So it's family, it's tradition. It's what it should be. Now, do we have our tough roads and stuff like this? Of course we do. We all live within 20 minutes of each other. I mean, it's insane. And so that started the course of the legacy of that BB name. So let's start there with that. Now, for me, growing up in Aurora, Illinois, and really Sugar Grove, Illinois, I went to Canelan High School. My dad saw a gift in me. And this is one of the things that I write about quite often is, as fathers, we're supposed to recognize our kids' gift and help them enhance that gift that God gave them, whatever those gifts are. Well, mine was running. okay, athleticism. And my dad always taught me young that whatever those are, glorify him and not yourself. Okay, so if you're going to play sports, son, great. Now, for me, selfishly speaking, I love basketball. I wanted to be the next Pete Maravich. I used to do the Pete Maravich drills all the time till my fingertips bled. I mean, that was just fanatic, though, right? And my dad saw this gift in me, and I didn't even want to go out for football, but he knew that I was good at football as well. And I didn't like football. I didn't like the contact of football. I didn't, the camaraderie of it. The high school team that was on at Keeneland High School was really bad in the 70s and the 80s. And my dad forced me, but he forced me for the right reasons, not because he wanted to see his son name in the, the paper and get a scholarship or anything. No, he forced me because he thought through the Lord I was gifted, and he was going to say, no, you're going to do this. So there I did. I went out my junior year, hated it. We were 1-8, which is the last time I was on a losing team, by the way, was my junior year in high school as a coach or player. It's crazy, like 43 years, right? So, and then my senior year, I fell in love with it. And I knew then in my senior year, because we got a new coach in that year, Joe Thorgensen, he changed the outlook for me in football. He instilled the love of football to me. And this I knew I wanted to do for the rest of my life, be it a player, coach, whatever it is. And here I am at 60 years old, and it's all football, right? And I set out on this path. Now, I'm going to kind of give you the Reader's Digest from this point on, instead of going to a long sermon here. Okay, but let's just say this. I only played 2 years of college football. When I first went to college, I was homesick, girl sick. That girl is now my wife for 37 years, so I left, okay? And I sat out for 3 years. Now, 3 years of not playing any sport in college, you're done. Okay, you're done. I mean, your story is pretty much done. But after 3 years of working construction, I just felt like this inner peace of going back to play football. But I was like, God, where do I go? Where do I turn? And I get a call back from Western Illinois, who recruited me 3 years previous. They're the only school that gave me a full ride scholarship. And I gave that.
Hey, Don, now one thing, explain to Chris and our listeners the type of work you were doing for 3 years, because that's a pretty cool story too.
Yeah. So I was putting siding on houses and building houses. I mean, I got eventually into the building of the house, but mainly I was a sider. I put wood siding, aluminum siding, you name it. Okay. Me and my brother-in-law. Okay. He owned the business. I was his employee. Okay. And I did that for 3 years, and I enjoyed it. I didn't mind getting up early in the morning and working till late at night. That stuff didn't bother me. But when you know that you're not in the will of God and you're not doing what God's called you to do, and you love the Lord with all your heart, you're going to feel this disconnect. And I started feeling this disconnect. And I'll never forget it. It was a May day, beautiful May day. Oh, in 1986. Okay. And I was in this third story of a house, putting this last peak siding, this peak piece, right? And I got to reach up to get this nailed into this siding, and the wind blew the staging, and I froze. And I'm 3 stories up now. Okay. And I froze. And I've never been scared of heights at this point in time, but I froze. I couldn't move. And now this is God, just so you know. Okay. And I'm froze. And I'm like, Bob, my brother-in-law, I said, Bob, I can't move. He said, well, just go walk over to the ladder and come down. I said, no, you don't understand. I'm frozen. I can't move. He said, you serious? I said, yes. So he climbs up to the ladder, and I said, don't get on the staging. Don't move the staging. He said, well, inch your way down. So I inched my way down this siding. Okay. And I get to the thing. I get my hands on this. I crawl over to the thing. I get down and I get on the ground, Gary. And I said, I can't do this anymore. God's calling me back into football. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. So believe this or not, 1 month later, June of 1986, Western Illinois calls me back. Now, this is one of the first most compelling things of this story. I'm a college recruiter now. This is my 7th year coaching at Aurora University. If a kid came to my school and he left after 2 weeks, I wouldn't know his name after a month or two. Okay. Mm-hmm. But Western Illinois never called me after the first year. God knew I wasn't ready. They didn't call me after the second year. God knew I wasn't ready. 3 years later, they're going to call me out of the blue. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, what are we talking about here? That was God. And I said, I picked up the phone, and they said, hey, this is Coach Crad, and we'd love to have you come back. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is an answered prayer. Yeah, I'm going. I mean, when you know it's When you know it's like crazy like this, you just know it has to be God. So I was like, I'm all in. Well, that was the first compelling part of the story. Then the second compelling part is I was out of eligibility. I only had 1 year at Western Illinois. I didn't know my time clock had been used up. So I had to make a choice, enter the draft after 1 year at Western Illinois. It's not going to happen. Or go to an NAI school completely separate of the NCAA, which I had 2 more years to play there. NAI? What's that? So I go to the public library. I found out NAI schools. Again, long story short, instead of choosing a place, Benedictine, which is right here in the Chicago area, which is close to home, I'm engaged to be married at this time. Okay. I would have commuted. I would have saved a lot of money. But no, God wanted me to go to Chadron State in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska. It's on the other side of Omaha, 8 hours from Omaha, south of Mount Rushmore, about 2 hours. And I'm like, I can't go there, God. Are you crazy? I mean, come on, God. I mean, what NFL team is going to find me in Chadron, right? Because I had this passion and dream at this time. Because let me back up 1 second, because my NFL career started before I ever played one down at college football. I mean, let me say that again so it registers. Wow. My NFL career started before I ever played one down at college football. And you may say, how is that even possible? I'll tell you how it's possible. When I went back to Western, they told me I had 1 year basically left of eligibility. I was there for spring ball. During spring ball, which I was a senior, okay, I just happened to walk into the gym, the indoor track, where there were 5 NFL teams doing what's called pro days for the seniors, run them in the 40, do the Wonderlic test, all these drills. I wasn't even invited. I just happened to walk out of math class, walked into the building. I saw guys that I just came out of spring ball with, okay, running the 40-yard dash with 5 scouts. And I'm like, I asked the coach, he tells me what's going on. I'm like, I'm going to be a senior. I would love to do this. It'd be kind of, and he goes, well, Don, you're not on any film. And he goes, basically telling me, let's not waste their time. And I was like, no, I'd really like to. It'd be kind of cool. So he goes down and he asks this star in the chest guy, the Dallas Cowboy scout who was running the deal, right? And if I do have one issue about my whole story that a Dallas Cowboy scout started my career, I got a real issue with that, just so you know. So he said, you could tell he was 40 yards away. And he goes, who cares? Let the kid run, right? Well, lo and behold, I was in a tank top, college attire, tank top, jeans, shorts, and sandals. And I was like, can I go get my
wait. Did you say jean shorts?
Yeah, jean shorts. Yeah, can you imagine? Well, this is the early 80s, Gary. Okay, okay, so
were they like Daisy Dukes or?
Oh yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they're pretty gross. So they said, look, Don, you don't have time to go get your running shoes. Just kick off your sandals. Don't warm up. Get in line and run. Now this is the first time I ever ran a 40-yard dash, so I had no idea what I could run. I pitter-pad down his track. I'm running back. I'm jogging back, and the star on the chest is on a beeline for me. And just so you know, those guys never talk to players. They just don't. Everything's secretive. They got the middle numbers, and they're not talking to players. But this guy had to talk to me. And he comes up to me. He goes, what's your name? I said, well, Don Beebe. Don Beebe, what number are you on film? I said, well, I'm a 5th-year senior, and I've never played before. And he laughed at me. He said, son, I've been doing this for 21 years. He says, I've never timed anybody this fast. And he showed me the clock that said 4:32. And I looked at him. I said, is that fast? I was so naive. I was naive. So he said, yeah, we'll keep our eye. So that's where my career started before ever playing college football. Okay. Then played that fall at Western. Then when I was out of eligibility. And then I landed up going to Chadron. And this is where it really gets good. Okay. I mean, think about this for a second. Who in the world would think Chadron, Nebraska would be your ticket to the NFL Combine, right? So I go to there, play 1 year at Chadron, had a great year at Chadron. And now this was my only second year of college football, won at an NAIA school, Division II at the time, really small. They're D2 NCAA now, but this was in 1988. And a guy by the name of Bill Giles. Now, this is another amazing miracle, okay, that God crafted. He comes through. He's a combine scout. He's not a scout for one specific NFL team. His job is to go around the country and get the top 300 talented guys in college football and invite them to the big show at Indianapolis, right? That now it's a freak show. I mean, everybody gets to watch it on TV, right? NFL Network. How in the world is a guy like me going to get invited to the thing with all these USC, Texas? I mean, come on. Well, when God has a plan, nothing can stand in his way. So he works me out, and he had been doing it for 31 years. He's an older man at this time, obviously. He was working me out, and he sat me down. He never, to his dying day, never told me what I ran in the 40 that day. His wife gave me the stopwatch that he timed me in at the funeral.
Really?
Yeah. So, but he did say this. He says, Don, I've been doing this 31 years. This is the greatest workout I've ever put a guy through. Now, that's quite a statement. And he said, I somehow have to get you into the combine. You are so unknown, and you have to get in front of people. He says, I'm going to give you my highest recommendation I've ever given anybody. Well, this guy got me involved. Now, again, this guy was used by God to go to Shadron, by the way, to work me out. And I get invited to the show. And this is where my life changed. I walk into the Crown Plaza Hotel, which is right across the street.
What year is this now, Don?
This would have been in the February of 1989, which was the year I got drafted.
Yep.
February 1989. I walk into the Crown Plaza. There's Barry Sanders, Deion Sanders, Troy Aikman. Every GM, head coach of the NFL's in this lobby area and coming through the Crown Plaza, right? And I go in, check in. I got one backpack. I got one pair of jeans, and my hat, I always wore my fishing hat, and I had my fishing shoes from high school that my right sole was unglued. So when I walked, it flopped. That's all I had, Gary. Okay. I go into my hotel room, and my roommate was Mike Barber, who played at Marshall. Okay, where Randy Moss played. And I said, hey, Mike, how you doing? I knew who he was a little bit. He had no idea who I was. And he goes, hey, Don, how you doing? Nice to meet you. And then all of a sudden, I hear this knock on the door. It's the concierge of the hotel. I didn't even know what a concierge was at that time, just so you know. Okay. So I open the door. Okay. This concierge gives me two Nike shoe boxes.
You think you walked in a French hotel at that point? Wait,
exactly.
This came from the right place. What's that called?
Clueless. I was so clueless. So I take these are from Mike Barber. I said, okay, great. So I took the boxes. I walked over to Mike and gave him his box. I said, what are those? He goes, oh, these are my shoes that my agent sent me to run the 40 in tomorrow. I said, agent? I said, what's that? He goes, you don't have an agent? I go, no, I don't have an agent. Do I need an agent? I was the only player there that didn't have an agent. Okay. So he goes, well, what are you going to run in? I said, well, and I looked down at my feet. I said, the shoes I walked in the building with, my fishing shoes. He goes, you got to be kidding me. You can't run in those. I said, he goes, you can have one of mine, because he had two. He's a size 12. I'm 9.5. That'd have been like Bozo Circus, right? So I'm like, listen, I'll just run in these shoes. I'm fine. So I literally ran the next day in a flopping fishing shoe. Okay. And I ran a 4.25 in a flopping fishing shoe, and my life changed.
Do you have those shoes still?
Oh, see, that's one of the regrets I have in life. I wish I had kept those shoes. I really do. I didn't know how things are going to turn out. I tossed them in the garbage when I got drafted. I'm like, okay, I don't need those anymore. So anyway, it broke the all-time record. I didn't know this, but at the time it broke the all-time record. Deion Sanders the same year ran a 4.25 as well. And we both broke the all-time record of the fastest 40 time ever recorded. And that stood for, I think it was 18 or 19 years that record stood. Okay, until some guy broke it. Chris Johnson of the Titans broke it. He ran a 4.23. Well, why do I say that? I don't say that about me. I say that because that had to happen. If I run a 4.4 or 4.5 from Shadron looking like me, it's like, you're just another guy. Okay. So then draft day came, and the Buffalo Bills called me on the first day. And Marv Levy said, Don, I just want you to know, we took you as our first pick in the 1989 draft, because they didn't have a first or second round pick that year. So I was a third round pick, but I was the team's first pick. And I tell people, I was like, you just heard basically what happened. Okay. I gave you the highlights of it. And now you're the first pick of an NFL team. If that's not Jesus Christ, I don't know what is, right? I mean, it's crazy. And my whole life's been like this. Okay. So one thing I've learned is this, and I learned this at a very young age. I really did. My life is not about me. I don't want to be that guy. I know too many of those guys. I don't want to be them. I pray every morning for three things. And I've been doing this for a long time: discernment, wisdom, and humility. If I can have wisdom of God's wisdom, and I could be discerning and know what's true, and I can be filled with his humility, that's the guy I want to be as a dad, as a husband, as a coach, as a friend. That's who I want to be.
Say
And
those
I
three one
try
more.
to-
Say
yeah.
those three one more time so people listen to this.
Yeah.
What are those three?
The
Discernment.
three, every discernment, wisdom, and humility.
Yep. You
Yeah,
have
those
those
are my.
three things.
Yeah. Yep. So that, in a nutshell, Gary and Chris, is kind of my story, and that's where we are today. With what's going on with Run for Glory and where God takes that. To be honest with you, not that I don't care, it's not a worry of mine. Okay, I don't need it. Just so you know, what I want to do is just glorify Him through it.
So this is a great book, Chris. You got to read
Yep.
right here. I read your book. This book here is and the two smaller ones too, but this is a great book, man. It tells your story in a way that the way you would tell it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And okay, so when we think about these things, right? Let's go back and some of this crazy stuff that God has put you through, and this life that you've led. How many players have played in 6 Super Bowls?
Okay, so here's because I get a lot of stuff I was the first player in NFL history to be on 6 Super Bowl teams. Now I was hurt and didn't get to play, okay, in all of 6, but I was the first to be on the roster that whole season. Mike Lodish, who was the first player to actually play in 6, and he played 4 with Buffalo, who was a teammate with mine, and then he went to Denver on their back-to-back Denver Super Bowls. He was with Denver, so he's the first to actually play in 6, and then came a guy by the name of Tom Brady. Okay, that blew everything out of the water. So,
Tom Brady.
yeah, he's pretty good.
So how many did you play in?
I'm so the first Super Bowl in Buffalo Bills history when we lost to the Giants during Desert Storm 1990 on the last second kick. And we lost, to the Giants 21-19. I had a broken leg. I got my leg snapped December 23rd. So just a few weeks before the Super Bowl run, I broke my leg and I was on crutches on the sideline. Then in the last Super Bowl, so the middle 4 I played in, and then the last Super Bowl, I had an injury, with the hamstring and stuff of that nature, and I didn't get to play in, which we won it in 31 with the Green Bay Packers, and then Super Bowl 32, which was my last year. I was on the sideline as well.
What was your injury this last year?
The hamstring issue. It's kind of an inside thing, which I'll keep to myself because I could have played and I was held out for some, tough decisions that was made by the Packers, and it's okay. It's business. It's a business, which is fine. But maybe privately, Gary, me and you can talk. I'll tell you then. How's that?
Yeah. All right. And didn't Favre give you the game ball? You didn't tell me this, but I think I've read that, didn't he?
Yeah. So after Super Bowl 31, when we won it, I was the safety guy. I was 10 yards behind Brett, when we were taking a knee. Brett was taking a knee. And just watching the last 10 seconds in the clock, I'm looking up at the clock. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm finally going to win this crazy thing, right? I mean, and and honestly, this was what I was feeling. My whole feelings went back. It was almost like I felt guilty. I was like, why me, God? Why not Jim Kelly or Marv Levy and all the people in Western New York? I mean, they deserved it more than I did. And why me? I felt guilty, and I walked up to Brett and I said, man, Brett, can I have that ball? And he said, Beebs, nobody deserves it more than you. He puts his hand on my head. He gives me the ball. And so I got the game ball because I really wanted to share this moment with my wife, who came down on the field, which is a great moment, and my son, who was 2, and then landed up playing in the NFL, which is kind of cool. And then my 4-year-old daughter. So I got to walk off with my kid, my kids in my hands, and it was just a really cool moment. After experience everything with Buffalo, I just wish they all could have enjoyed it like I got to.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of them did through you, actually.
Yeah.
Knowing how much they loved you, I think they experienced it through you, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So when you think about this, you didn't have any fancy trainers back then training you for speed or all that, and after your career, how long before you started coaching speed? Because I'll never forget hearing about these speed camps where this little school down in Aurora was just beating everybody that, in a big way. And then like they weren't the biggest. They weren't the biggest. They were a small school, but they had speed. And then I read about this speed camp thing. This how it was a House of Speed, or what'd you call it?
Yeah, House of Speed. So I'll talk about House of Speed first, and then Aurora Christian getting coaching. This is what I knew. It was we were in the Super Bowl in January, February 1998, which is the one against the Denver Broncos that John Elway won his first one. That was the one we were at in San Diego. I came home and I contemplated everything that ended the way it did. I was just like, I'm kind of tired of the business of the NFL. And I was kind of feeling that God was taking this passion. Because I always tell people, how do you know when to retire? How do you know to move on from something? Well, for me, I pray, God, take away the passions when I wake up that I want to go train. I want to do, take that away. And he will. And he did. But it took about 4 months. Okay. So I kept training, and it was May of 98. And I was like, okay, God, I got the answer. So I announced my retirement, and I sat down with Dr. Jeff Shute, who was training me, and he'd been training athletes for years. But in 1998, remember, nobody was training. Okay. Nobody's training athletes for speed and quickness. So, I mean, we didn't have speed coaches. We didn't have this stuff. And I said, let's do this. And I told Jeff, I said, man, let's take what you do and what I do, and let's combine it together and form this business. So I go home, tell my wife, and I would say, man, and we were trying to think of a name. And I was like, man, I really loved the House of Pain. That was such a cool, my wife over dinner goes, call it House of Speed. And so she has all the naming rights to the business. So it's like, boom, there it is. House of Speed. That's it. So we incorporated. 2 weeks later, we're running our first class. We got 6 kids in the class. 2 of them were mine and Dr. Schute's. And so it just blew up. I mean, it just blew up. I was a touching base with all the media people that I knew throughout the country. We had USA Today articles and Sports Illustrated stuff. And it just blew up to the point where we had 24 franchises across the country within a few years of doing it. And after doing that for 23 years, well, during that, just so you know, I knew when I retired in May of 98 that I wanted to impact young people. That was a calling of mine. So that's why we started House of Speed, to impact young people. But what I found into that was I was only a part of this kid's life once a week in training a 2-hour session. And it wasn't enough for me. I mean, to really, truly mentor a kid, I got to get to know them. And I would go to their events and all stuff like that, but it still wasn't enough. Yeah. So I said, after it would have been in 2004, so 6 years later, I said, I got to get into coaching. And so here comes Aurora Christian. And this is a really cool story too. I'm out at a movie with Diana at AMC Theaters. And I just read an article that Aurora Christian was moving into this new building in this industrial park area. And I said, hey, baby, let's go take a look at this, place that they're going to move into. Right. And they already had a program. It was 6 years old. I mean, it was bad. I'll be honest with you. It was not a good program. So, and that always intrigues me. So I parked the truck. Okay. I said, hey, stay here. I'm going to go out and I'm going to walk the grounds where the only place that it could be a football, because it's landlocked, that they could put this football field. And so I start walking the grounds, Gary, and I'm telling you, I'm praying, and I get on my knees, and I'm not kidding you. I got emotional. I was just like, you just know. And I was like, well, God, if you want me to coach here, they already have a coach. How am I going to coach here if there's already a coach? 2 weeks later, the coach resigned from Aurora Christian to take a job in Indiana. Okay. And I was like, okay. So I put my name in the hat. I said, I'm all in, man. I'm all in. Now, keep this in mind. They had no football field. That field now that I took the knee on is about where I took the knee, is about where the 50-yard line now is. This beautiful stadium with field turf and everything, right? Because I envisioned all of this when I'm in this rocks and weeds on this field. God gave me that vision. And so he opened the door. I got the job. They had no football field. They had no weight room. They had 17 kids in the whole program, freshmen through seniors. I mean, they were the Bad News Bears on steroids. It was awful, right? They had never won a conference title. They had never, gone to the playoffs and won a playoff game. And I didn't care. I was all in. And so my first meeting, you'll love this, Gary, because this is right up your alley. My first meeting with these 17 kids and their parents. First of all, they're sitting all over this dilapidated gym on the west side of Aurora. And I said, no, we're family. I said, everybody come down here. Come on. And the AD is sitting right in the front row, right in the middle. Okay. And all these 17 players and their moms and dads. And I said, guys, listen. And this is the first thing out of my mouth. I said, guys, listen. I said, we got one goal outside of building your faith. That's the number one deal. But on the football field, we got one goal. I said, what do you think that goal is? Some of the kids said, beat Chicago Christian, who we had never beaten in the history of the school. Beat Walther Lutheran, who we never beaten in the history of our school. I said, no. I said, you're thinking small. I said, we're going to win the state title. You should have seen the looks I got. That you'd have thought I had 3 eyeballs. I mean, they were like, this is crazy, right? Well, I really, truly believe this. If the 2 biggest reasons why people don't achieve greatness in life, okay, number 1, they don't think they can. If you don't think you can, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It's not going to happen.
No.
And number 2, too lazy. I've been around too many people that are just too lazy. I only got so much time. You know what? You can get a lot done in an hour. You can get a lot done in a day. A lot. You just got to put forth that effort. So those are the 2 biggest reasons why people don't achieve great things in life. So I said, we're going to change that from day 1. I said, we're going to start thinking about it, eating, drinking, training, practicing to what we want to achieve. And that's, we're going to win the state title. Now, put this in perspective. Aurora is the 2nd largest city in Illinois. Mm-hmm. Nobody in the history of Aurora, and there's 8 high schools that ever been to the state championship, let alone win one in the history of Aurora. And I'm telling kids that they're going to do that. Well, over the course of the next 10 years as the head coach there, and trust me when I say these things, this has nothing to do with me. Absolutely nothing to do with me. It was just God using me as a piece, a pawn in his big, great game of eternity. They went to the playoffs every year. They went to the quarterfinals, 7 of the 10, semifinals, 5 of the 10, went to 3 state championships, winning 2 of them. They're still the only team in Aurora history that's ever won a state title. Okay. And we started with 17 kids, and from 2004 to 2007, we had 74 kids. Okay. I was just pulling kids out of the band room. I mean, you name it. Let's go. You're a football player. Let's go have fun. But everybody wants to be a part of a winner.
Yeah.
They do. Sure. Everybody just does. They just want to be a part of it. And that is the hook to get them in. And then you just love them. You just love them, man. I mean, you love them unconditionally. Even when they're bad, you love them.
Yeah.
But you discipline them out of love. You never discipline out of anger. I don't cuss. I don't yell. I don't scream. I discipline, but I discipline them out of love. Just like my dad taught me.
So you coached them for 10 years.
Yeah. So as a head coach for 10 years.
I remember everybody talking about it, right? Because I was around high school football. I had a great coach I stayed friends with, and he was first year in at this school that never won anything. He had said the same thing you did. And this is 1980, I guess, 79, 80. And same way, we all said this guy's crazy, right? But this guy ended up winning, not as successful as you, but he won a couple state championships, and he was actually a Hall of Famer, Illinois coach. He coaches Hall of Fame. But bottom line is this: I remember. So I've always followed high school football, and I remember those years saying, "What's going on in Aurora? What's happening there?" And so we said, "Oh, they got the NFL." The great NFLer, who of course he's got all he's been trained all this speed thing, so he's trained speed, and people can't compete with that.
Well,
it was funny. How many kids did you have that did they all go through basically your speed camp then, as you're coaching them all, right?
Yeah. No, we would. I mean, and that goes back to what I originally said. They learned how to work hard. Okay, sure, we had the tools to be able to enhance their ability to run faster, and I had great mentors. Okay, Dr. Shute and Rusty from the Bills, and just different people that taught me how to train an athlete. But it's not. Listen, there's 2 things you can't measure on a man. It's the way he thinks and his heart, his passion. You can't measure that. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to train it, and so we train passion. That means we get up at 5 a.m. and we're going before school starts, and we got 2 hours of work in before anybody else gets to the school, right? That's passion. My definition of passion is train when no one knows. Your coach doesn't know, your peer doesn't know. You're up reading the Bible. The only one that knows is God. And the reason nobody knows, Gary, you don't care. You don't care. You know what you want, and you're going to go do that. Okay. And then you keep working the passion, and then you start to believe that you can do these things. And when you put the faith component in that, dude, we got a higher power. I always tell kids, I say this all the time to my players when I'm at Royal University. I said, do you think I determine if you play here or not? Every one of them says, absolutely, coach. I said, no, I don't. No, I don't. I said, if you're a really believer in Jesus Christ and you believe and you love him with all our heart, it doesn't matter what I think. And they'll say, well, and then I'll point out one of the stories that I wrote in one of my devotionals when I went to the Carolina Panthers. Okay. I mean, it's a great story. And I just tell this story that it was awful football wise. It was the worst experience of my whole playing career was at the Carolina Panthers. And because I had a coach that just degraded me, made me feel like unworthy. And at that point in time, which I already knew, but I really grew in this area, is my identity really a football player? Dude, how shallow is that?
Yeah.
I don't want to be that guy. No, my identity is in Christ and in Christ alone. And when you get that figured out, he's going to take care of the rest of it. So what did God do? He takes me out of Carolina, gets me cut for the first time in my career. I get cut from a team, which I'm fine with, right? And he takes me to Green Bay. And at Green Bay, I had the best year of my whole career statistically. Okay, we go to the Super Bowl. And who do we beat in the NFC Championship to go to the Super Bowl, by the way? Oh, the Carolina Panthers. See, God has a sense of humor too, you know. Okay. But the thing about it is that I was willing to listen. If I would have wallowed in my self-pity and doubt and envy and anger, I would have went south. I would have went the other way, which so many people do. And then what's the result? My marriage falls apart. My work relationships fall apart. I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I want to be that guy.
So the two things you can measure in a man are
is their passion, their mind, okay, or their heart, and their mind, the way they think. You can't measure a guy's mind. You can't measure a person's heart. As Coach Levy would say, in every football game that you play or everything that you do in life, it will be revealed in every game. Your heart and your mind will be revealed, good or bad. And that's why I always use the play that God has given me, the greatest play probably in Sports Illustrated, never given up, right? Is the Leon Lett play. And God gave me that. Not for me.
Yeah. So I got that out of you when we had dinner last time. And you explained that feeling what went on there. Please do that. Explain that whole 20 seconds or whatever that was. That was still so popular in the history of the NFL. So we're talk about that. It's pretty cool. It's very cool.
So well, just to give stage the setting here. It's Super Bowl 27, which was now the third Super Bowl of the Buffalo Bills, which we lost the first two. We're the only team in the history to go to 4, but we're the only team in history to lose all 4 too. So, and this was the third one. And it's late in the game. We're losing 52-17 for the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, there's 4 or 5 minutes left of the game. We're not coming back. We're not going to win. It's over. Okay. And everybody in the whole country and the world knows that. Well, with 4 or 5 minutes left of the gun, we got the ball. We're trying to do a no-huddle offense. I'm running a go route down the left side of the field. And I turn and look, and Frank Reich, who's quarterbacking at that time because Jim Kelly got hurt, fumbles the football. And literally, as the ball hits the ground, the defensive lineman named Leon Lett, big number 78, picks it up, and he's going to run for an apparent touchdown. Now, just so you know, if Leon scores the touchdown right there, that would still be the record for the most points ever scored in the Super Bowl, 59. But he didn't know that there's this little pipsqueak running down the sideline, running after him. I get this question all the time. What were you thinking while you're running him down, and why? Okay, those are 2 important questions. Number one, what was I thinking? Literally, I was like, how am I going to tackle this giant of a man? Okay, I literally was going to jump on his back. He'd have rode me right out the back of the end zone. It would have been a football foul. It would have been hilarious, right? But no, he made it where he just stuck the ball out to his side, and he started to strut the last 8 to 10 yards. And I knocked the ball out of his hand right inside the 1 yard line. Okay. They didn't have instant replay that year, but you think about this for a second. Okay. You look at the film, so many things happened during the course of this play that God had to be ordained in this because one, I'm running down the field right behind Leon. Jimmy Johnson, the other defensive tackle, is running behind Leon. He looks into the inside. If he would have just saw me and diverted me one step, I'd have never made the play. But he didn't even see me. I ran right by him and he didn't even see me, right? When the play happened, I knocked the ball out of his hand. Nobody really knew where it happened on the field, and it went out of the back of the end zone, right? So either A, he scored a touchdown, or by rules going out of the end zone, it's going to be the Buffalo Bills ball at the 20-yard line going the other way. Now, if you watch the film, no referee has an angle. No referee could run fast enough to keep up with Leon and myself, and they're at least 10 yards behind. And they gather, and they don't make a call for at least a minute. So let's imagine what they're talking about, right? Hey, did you see it? No, I didn't see it. I didn't see it. Did you see it? No, I didn't see it. You know what? 52, 59. Who cares? Give them a touchdown, right? But no, they said no. They said no. They gave in because God knew how this play was going to impact people. He knew that, right? And so it happened. Now, here's the first moral of the story. And this goes back to old Coach Levy, who's on the Mount Rushmore of the greatest men I've ever known for me, just so you know. Okay. He's that kind of guy. And when I looked and turned and I saw the ball fumbled, I just reacted. I just started taking off as fast as I could, running as fast as I could. There's 10 other players of my teammates on the field, just kind of jogging and kind of watching the play. I'm not, no defense to them, but people ask me the why. And I always tell them the why. And I talk about this quite often in, men's retreats, father-son retreats and stuff of this nature. And here's the why. My father didn't grow me up in the household of quitting. If you started a sport, there's no way you're quitting that sport halfway the season. Whatever you took on your dinner plate, oh, by the way, you're going to finish it. You're not going to shove it into the garbage or feed the dog under the table. You're going to finish it, son. You took it. So I always embedded it, always finishing. Whatever you do, whatever you start, you finish it. So this was just my character. Going back to Coach Levy, your character will be revealed in every game that you play, good or bad, because when you have a split second to react to something, that's your true character. See, most good people, if you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, a day, we're going to say, hey, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was right. But when you react to something, it could be in an argument with your wife. When you react to something, there's something in you that needs to be revealed, right? Crazy. Sure. So I always tell guys that get right with Christ and you'll start reacting in the right way when it comes to your kids and your wife and team or whatever it is, right? At work. So that's the first lesson I want. But the other lesson I want people to learn is this. An hour before that game is a beautiful sunrise or a sunny day, 75, Southern California. And when I was a 10-year-old, 11-year-old boy in the backyard, I always dreamed of playing in a Super Bowl as a young boy, even though I didn't like football in high school because we were a horrible football program, by the way. When I was a little kid, I loved playing with the guys in the backyard. Mm-hmm. And I always would dream of playing, cool to play in a Super Bowl. Oh my gosh, Fred Blitnikoff, Oakland Raiders, and they played in Pasadena. And I was like, I want to be Fred in Pasadena. Yeah. So the point is, I'm living my dream. How many people can say they're living their dream? Yeah. I'm living my dream. And it's an hour before the game. And I'm walking the grounds. I talked to Jimmy Johnson a little bit, the Cowboys coach and a couple of people. Hey, how you doing? And I had to go to the 50-yard line. And I pray before every game. But this one, I remember it like it was yesterday. And I got on my knees and I literally said, Lord, today, let me glorify your name more than ever before. I don't want this to be about me. This is the biggest stage in sports. Let me be used by you in this game. Now, selfishly speaking, and I'm not kidding you, I got up. Man, when you feel the presence of the Lord, you're like, oh. I mean, I can accomplish and do anything, right? That's how I felt. Yeah. And I literally thought, there's no doubt in my mind, I'm going to make this one-handed J.J. Jefferson stab in the back of the end zone, right? And win the Super Bowl with no time on the clock to win it for Buffalo. They would have carried me home. I wouldn't even have to take a flight. Right? I mean, that's the way it would have been, right? That's what I was envisioning. But see, that's a selfish thought. That was all about me. But no, God gave me the Leon Lett play in a blowout victory. And I always tell people, if it happened all over again, which one would I take? And hands down, and I know this will disappoint Buffalo Bill fans, I'll take the Leon Lett play all day. Why? Because when I stand in front of people or I do a podcast with Gary Rabine And we talk about these things. How many people can relate to a one-handed stab in the back of the end zone at Super Bowl? Nobody. But how many people can relate to never giving up? Everybody. And see, the whole big picture for me, guys, is this: eternity. Eternity. There's going to be people in heaven. Okay. There's going to be people in heaven because of the Leon Lett play. How do I know that? Because I've received these letters. I've talked to these people. They've come up to me and poured their hearts out. I can't tell you how many. I still 33, 34 years later, I still get fan mail letter. Okay, ready? I still get fan mail letter stuff that I got to go through. Okay, every day,
That's
from
awesome.
people, and almost every one of them mentions or talks about the Leon Lett play. That's the impact that God can do if you just let him. And that is the Leon Lett story in a nutshell, Gary.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's I love hearing it. I can hear that over and over, and especially from you, the guy that was able to live that example. So cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so then after all of that, right now you went on and you were blessing of this high school. Who wouldn't take a prior NFL or one of the fastest guys ever in the NFL to coach their team, right? I mean that job was not, in my opinion, couldn't have been anybody else's job once they knew that you were interested at all. And then you've gone on. Now tell us where it's gone since then when it comes to your coaching career. I mean, I get the blessing to come and watch you tomorrow, so it's gonna be a blast. You're coming out to tomorrow.
It'll be great to see you. Yeah, I knew I was called to coach. Okay, I knew that God has given me some gifting in leadership and coaching, and believe me, again, it's not me. I mean, if this was about me, I would fail miserably. There's a lot better coaches of X's and O's that are better than me. I can tell you that right now. It's just God's hand involved in it. And so I knew that when my kids were young, that I was a husband. I was a man of faith first. I was a husband second, and I was a dad third. I can't put my work in things that God has called me to do before my kids. And I think this is where pastors really getting a problem. They're called to be a pastor, but understand you're called to be your own family first,
Sure.
before the flock of the church. So if you get this screwed up, and this is scripture, if you get this family thing screwed up, the other's not going to work. So I knew that at a young age too. And that was, because my dad, that I love being around my wife. I love being around my kids. And that's why I took the Aurora Christian job. But once I became an empty nester and they all left, now I get to fulfill maybe something, I would like a little bit more competitive, higher level stuff. And I looked into the NFL. I had a chance. FBS had a chance. And I just felt like it was too much of a business for me. I'm into mentoring. And I'm not saying you can't do it at that, but not at the level that I wanted to. And lo and behold, I get a text out of the blue from a person that I know at Aurora University and said, would you consider the AU coaching position? I text back, I said, never thought about it. I grew up in Aurora and I never knew about Aurora football at all. Never been to a game and anything of this nature. And I was like, and my first thought was like, God, really? Aurora? I kind of want to go south, God. I want to, no, you're going to stay in Illinois. Okay. So as messed up as Illinois is, God wanted me to stay. So here I am. I'm like, okay, I go into this meeting with the AD, literally thinking to myself, fighting it, saying, there's no way I want this job. No way this will. And 2 hours later, after lunch with this AD and the vice president, I'm like, boy, this reminded me a lot of Aurora Christian. It really did. A lot of intangible things that just God was revealing to me and stirring up all those first days at Aurora Christian and the energy that I had for that. And I was like, let's do it. Let's do it. And so sure enough, 2 weeks later, I get to meet the team and I had the same exact story for them. I stand in front of them and 73 guys. And granted, they had just come off a 5-5 season. They'd only been in the playoffs 5 times in the history of their school since they had football. And that's going back to, I think they started it in the 50s or whatever it was, and then brought it back in 1986. And since that time, they had only been in the playoffs 5 times. And I stood in front of them and I told the seniors, I said, I want you I grabbed the mic. They had no idea who the coach was going to be. I knew none of them. I grabbed the mic and I said, I want all the seniors to come forward. 21 seniors came forward. Right. And I said, listen, I don't care what has been done in the past. I know you guys haven't been to the playoffs, anything like that. I said, but listen, we got one goal this year. What do you think that goal is? 21 guys said, win the conference or be the first team in conference history to win a playoff game. Nobody in the conference history has ever won a playoff game up until that point, right?
Wow.
And I looked at him and I said, guys, look, don't take this wrong. And this is 3 minutes into the conversation. I said, don't take this wrong, but now I know why you're average. You think average. I said, I gave you the keys to the CarMax parking lot and you chose a Pinto. You could have chose a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, anything you wanted, but you chose a Pinto. I said, I don't understand that way of thinking, guys. And I'm not going to coach it. Okay. Today, we're going to eat, think, drink, train, everything that we do as a team. We have one common goal, and that's we're going to win the national title, because until you think it, it ain't never going to happen here. And so we're going to think it. So here we set off on this journey, and we, that season they went 9-1. And
wait, what year is this now?
2019. 2019. And we go in there, and they finished the season 9-1. They won the conference. They were 7-0 in conference. We had one close game. The rest of them were blowouts. And here we are. We start off this path, and we get into the playoff, and we're at the selection show, right? We've got to find out who we're going to play. And who pops up? Aurora University on top of the bracket. On the bottom, it pops up St. John. Just to put this in perspective for you, that would be like, the New England Patriots popping up when Brady was there. Okay. They're the winningest program in D3 history. The Gallardi Trophy, which is the Heisman Trophy for the Division III top player, is named after their coach. Okay. So they're the elite of the elite programs. And that's who we get. We're a 30-point or 40-point underdog. 40-point underdog. And what do you think the room did, Mike? Now, this was a whole pretty much season together, off season of training and during the season at the end of the year, and we're 9-1. What do you think the room did of the players? You would think they would go, oh God, St. John. They erupted. They couldn't wait to sling the stone out of their pocket, man. I'm telling you, they were so pumped. They couldn't, let's go. And maybe we could destroy these guys. So we go up there, all the way up there to Minnesota.
And you wait before the game. I mean, so initially you're 40-point underdog. Did it stay a 40-point underdog? It didn't go lower. Didn't go at 35 or 30.
No, it stayed 40. Well, I was giving you the what it was game day. We were 40-point underdog. I don't know what it originally started off. And who knows? I mean, but we were a 40-point underdog. Here's a perennial, team, and then a team that's never only been in the playoffs 5 times and has never won a playoff game in the history of the conference, not just at AU. And so we go up there, we're winning the whole game, Gary. And with 6 minutes left, we're up 9 points. And the ball went off our kick returner, freshman kick returner. Okay, went off his leg, went out of the 2-yard line in the coming out territory. Now we're into the breeze. There's 12,000 fans screaming. We can't even get a play call. We go 3 in, 3 out. They return the punt, 29-yard line. They put it in. And next thing you know, we lost 51-47. But this is the kicker. St. John went all the way to the semis that year and lost in a last-minute field goal to Whitewater, or they would have been in the national championship game. And 21 of the 22 starters at Aurora University were the same guys the year before. Wow. Now, I say that because 2 things you can't measure on a man: the way he thinks and the passion in his heart. I always believe this. I'll take an average athlete and instill in him passion and work ethic, and we're going to give you a run for your money, pal. And if this kid has talent, I'm going to destroy him. Okay, and so. And again, those are just what the Lord has taught me as a player. And believe me, if I would have not had those intangible things, I'd have never played at that level. I'd have got destroyed. Okay. I just would have. I mean, you have to be able to believe that you can get the job done. I just have learned over my life to get that through Christ and not myself. Now, some people go to self and do all these things, and that's fine. That's their way of doing it. But for me, I just believe that God's bigger than anything, and there are no odds with God.
I love it. Okay, so after that season, how's it worked out since then now?
Yeah, so in our conference, we have won 46 games in a row. Believe this or not, 2 weeks ago, in 7 years, we lost our first conference game. So we're 46-1. Okay, in conference play, we lost to Benedictine. It was a real battle. It was something that we probably needed. Okay. We were going through some things internally with some players that I have now removed from the team. Okay. It was a hard decision, probably the hardest decision I've had to do as a coach in 27 years. but it was the right thing to do. Okay. Meaning that our starting quarterback gone, our second quarterback gone, our third wide receiver gone, our 2 tight ends are gone. And so, I had to do it. And now, not going into why, I don't think that's important.
Yeah.
But as a coach, I have to do what's right for the team. Okay. I just do. And for me, it's all about doing the right things character-wise. And we had this darkness over our team, and we were 1-2. The one game that we won, nobody even felt good. And that's not right. Okay.
Mhm.
But once I made this decision, it rallied around this kid from Woodstock, by the way. Okay. The
Really?
quarterback. Yeah. Who's never played quarterback here at Royal University. He's a senior. And I just felt like he was this Tim Tebow type of personality and his work ethic. And he's always done everything right. He's never complained. And I said, you know what? I'm going to put the ball in your hands, son. And so for 3 games now, he has just gone on a roll. And he's doing things. I always tell him, I said, man, you've been anointed by the Holy Spirit, son, because I'm telling you, I didn't see this in you before then. But now I see how God.
What's this kid's name?
Liam Mickle.
Oh,
Mickle. He was a quarterback at Woodstock, 4 years ago or so, 5 years ago.
I remember the name. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's just an absolutely incredible kid, a tremendous leader. And the kids have rallied around him. And through all the turmoil and the darkness that we went through, one thing I do know is that what Satan means for bad, God always reveals good. And Charlie Kirk is a great example of that.
Yeah.
And when I see Erica standing up there and saying those 3 words, I looked at my wife on the couch that night and I looked at her and I said, babe, those 3 words will go down as some of the greatest 3 words ever spoken by anybody. Because really, how can you forgive somebody that just did that 10 days earlier? That can only be through Christ. And that's what's going to make it so powerful. And it has.
No, that's you're right about that. And Erica, I've had a conversation with her. I haven't said this, but so I texted Erica right after it happened. As you know, Charlie was like family to me, and I texted her, him we're praying for you, we're with you, you need anything at all, your family needs anything, my family's here to serve you any way you need. Anyway, and then a few days later, after she spoke that night, when she spoke, 2 nights, 3 nights later, whatever it was, the next morning, I don't think I told you this, Don. I got a call from a friend of mine who's become the ambassador to the Holy See, Brian Birch. Brian Birch, a really great Catholic Christian man, and just love him as a friend. And Julie and I went to his swearing in, and when he had in Chicago, and this is when the night after Erica spoke, he had his 45 minutes, 50 minutes with the Pope, basically kind of a swearing in there, and then a meeting afterwards in Rome. And he said that much of the conversation was the Pope talking about this, this tragedy of Charlie Kirk. And asked, he goes, would you be able to get a message to Erica before I go public with my prayers for the family? And he goes, yeah, I think I can. I think my friend Gary can probably get a message to him. So sure enough, he called me that morning, like within half hour after his sit down with the Pope. And then, Gary, can you get a message to Erica? I said, I texted her once so far, no feedback yet, but I don't expect it. She's going through this crazy tragedy. Anyway, but I said, I'll text whatever, of course. And I think she'll look at it eventually. And so sure enough, I did. And then that night, about 8 o'clock that night, she called me. I was with Julie at a friend's house and said, can I put Julie on too? Because Julie and I are praying for you. And she goes, of course, Gary. So she said that, that text that you sent me was one of the first things I saw when I finally turned my phone on after 3 days. I really appreciate it. It was a small bright light that I've had in these last 3 days of the loss of my husband. Of course, I love so much. Anyway, so we went on to talk about a lot of things after that, but it was a blessing that I could be part of that small little bright light she had, and went to the memorial and all that, and since then talked to Mikey, his it was really amazing young man. He's only like 20. He's like 23 years old, and he's been the chief of staff for Charlie since he was like 18 or 19. And he's actually the son of a great pastor. I don't know if you know that, but
Yep.
so this kid's amazing. So I've talked to him a couple times, talked to him again the other night about, a bunch of different initiatives that I want to help on. But this, Charlie, as you know, much like you, when he spoke, it was, God was, God, gave all the grace to God, and people said, this photographic memory, where does it come from? How does this? I don't know. It says God blessed me with this, right? He would never talk about a photographic memory unless I talked to him about it. But it was all about, striving to not have any pride, never to be, never to, take this blessing for granted, all the blessings he had, right? So anyway, yeah. So much like that, right? We've got to, if we can live our lives like that, Charlie, and I've said this, and I think anybody that knows Charlie said this. This young man at 30, going to be 32 years old here, coming up the 14th. This young man at 31 years old, would have said, if he knew the difference, over a billion listeners or watchers of his podcast, I think 2 days ago, bigger than the Super Bowl, I think, right? Yeah. So if he would have known that he'd make this impact upon getting assassinated, he'd probably say, let's do it again, right? I'll take the bullet. Oh, wait, yeah. we can save you, Charlie. We can save you. You got these two beautiful kids. Oh, and he would say, I'd take the bullet again, because I really believe that. And that's amazing. There's just, if everybody was like this, like you, like him, leaders that know it's all God's work, boy, we will continue to do some amazing things in this world.
Yeah, no doubt. You say a lot of powerful things there. And for me, what an honor. I mean, what an honor to die in that way. I mean, really, martyr's death like that for the name of Jesus, because as Paul says, to die is to gain. And people don't really understand that. They think it's a morbid thought. And I'm like, no, man, it's just the opposite. I know where I'm going, man. And I'll be honest, I can't wait. I can't wait. I would love to go home right now. Okay. And I have no fear of death because I won't die. Okay. So I'm not going to experience that. And nor believer of Jesus Christ will. You'll be in the presence of the heaven in a twinkling of an eye, and standing before the guy that created you. So to me, I've always really tried to focus on the big picture, not the here and the now, not the selfish gain, not what can I get out of this, because that's our human thoughts. That's just who we are. Okay. We're sinful, right? But I have really tried to focus on the big picture, and the big picture obviously is heaven. And I always, I vision this when I'm walking the streets of gold and I'm in heaven. And this, I get emotional when I think about this, is somebody comes up and they're, just walking this way, and, because it's going to be a lot more normal than we think. We're not going to be floating around. No, it's going to be a lot more normal than we think. So I'm walking along, and whatever I'm doing that day, and somebody comes up to me and just shakes my hand. And he says 2 words. He says, "Thank you." And I'm like, "For what? I've never met you." He goes, "No, I heard you on Gary's podcast, and man, it just changed my life, man. I had to know." I mean, think of all the people that are going to say thank you to just amazing. I mean, just
for sure, no doubt. How about that song? So I was just told yesterday that Julie also saw that that Paul McCartney wrote a song about Charlie, and it's let's crowd heaven.
Crowd heaven. Yeah.
Let's make heaven crowded, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what. And I got to listen to that song because but again, that's our goal, right? Our goal is that if we can't, if we're striving to get there ourselves, boy, we don't want to be lonely up there, right? And there's so many people that are close, right? They're and I'm probably one of those. Some really close. We think we're pretty close. We'll get and just with the presence of friends and people that love you that are closer, maybe, right? Your odds are higher. And so how do we make sure we crowd heaven, right? And I think that's our goal in life. And
well, I think we get caught up if we just look at, again, the grand scheme of things. We're going to be here, 80 years maybe? Charlie, 31. Okay. And if you look at that dot of your time here on earth on eternity's line, we can't get our minds to think this way, but you got to try.
Yeah.
It's a vapor. The word of God says it's a vapor, gone. And so if it feels like forever when you're living here, right? I mean, it's just like, man, another day. Here we go again, right? The grind. But it's like when you have the internal perspective, and so I envision every time I get up in the morning, okay, I'm an early riser guy. I like getting up early. So when I get up, I always envision when my feet hit the ground, Satan says, oh crap, he's up. You know what I'm saying? And that just drives me as a coach, as a dad, husband, whatever. So I try hard to just, even in the frustrating days, and we've had a lot. This last month has been very frustrating for me. Okay. But man, I just see God's hand working it. I have been blessed by it. This team has. I don't know what God's going to do. I do know this. I told the players, I said, through all the darkness that we've gone through, I said, God's going to bless this team. And see, automatically the players saying, oh, we're going to win the national title. We're going to get in the playoffs. You know, I said, you know, that might happen. That might be God's plan, but that's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is spiritually. Each one of you is going to be touched in some way, shape, or form. Okay. That is what wins in life right there. So
Exactly. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Chris, what do you think of this brother of ours? Is he amazing or what?
Oh my gosh.
You didn't care to hear that, I know, but hey, what a fun guy. So just so you know, what we like to do, Don, is Chris kind of has some questions and some bullet points he's on top of, and then we kind of go over what we've learned that we believe can help anybody that wants to lead in their life, right?
Yep.
So Chris, what do you got? What do you got to throw at us here? Not a lot here, Chris, right? I'm sure.
Yeah, Don, I wish we had like 8 hours so we could just like go through every part of your story, man. It is just fascinating and amazing and incredibly inspiring. I mean, the Leon Lett play alone, like that is one of my, if not my favorite play in NFL history. Like you must have ran like a 3.9 to catch up with him. Like, that's just not physically possible how you were able to do that.
You know, Liam, that was not slow.
yeah, no, it's funny. You know, you don't know the outcome in life. You don't know the outcome of a game. You don't know an outcome of the decision that you make on a daily basis. So what I always tell people is this, is that give it your all and you can always live with the result. Good or bad, win or lose, you can always live with the. Well, how do I know that? I lost 4 Super Bowls. I have no regrets in those games. I dropped a touchdown in the Super Bowl 26. I got no regrets. I was trying, I was doing everything I could. I prepared myself. It just didn't work out. But when you don't prepare and you don't give time to whatever you're doing and energy and passion and hard work and all those things, then later in life, guys, you'll say 2 other words that I never want to say. They'll say too late. Okay. Or I wish. And as soon as a person says, I wish to me in a conversation, I wish I would, I always say 2 more back to them. I always say, too late. Too late. You can't take it back. So do it right the first time. And we're all going to fail, guys. Come on. I mean, we're talking about living a perfect life. Nobody can do this. So we're all going to make mistakes. So we learn from them. We learn from our mistakes. So, and the Leon Lett is a great example of that. It's a great metaphor for me to stand and talk to people about it. But at the same time, I tell them, guys, listen, I fail too. You know, I try to do things on my own, right? And I fail. But I do know where my heart is. At the end of the day, I know where my heart is. And I always use the analogy King David. King David was called in the book of 2 Samuel, I think it was, that he was a man after God's own heart. You know, you think about that. What an honor to be called a man after God's own heart. This guy was so messed up. He was a premeditated murderer, an adulteress. And this guy is a man after God's own heart. But then you read Psalms 51 and you're like, wow, that guy poured his heart out, man, to God and asked for forgiveness, because that's all God cares about. God doesn't care about wins and losses. He cares about your heart, man. Do you really love him? He knows you're a sinful person. He knows that. He gets it, but he's there for you. And I have tried my hardest to envision I'm a failure, but in him, I have everything. And in him, I've forgiven, man. I didn't understand grace at a younger age. That's why I lived with guilt so much. Now that I understand grace, not that and as Paul talks about in Romans, not that I would go sin more. And I know I'm getting on my soapbox preaching here. Not that I would go sin more. I sin less because I understand his grace. I don't want to disappoint my father, just like I didn't want to disappoint my own dad when I messed up. It's the same thing. So anyway, yeah, I've been very blessed, no question about it. But God gets all the glory, not me.
Amazing. Yeah, I just so enjoyed this. I was really looking forward to it, and it delivered on every level. Thank you so much for your time, Don. This is absolutely incredible.
I enjoy it.
Like, where did this speed come from? Like you just came out of nowhere. Are you a space alien? Like, what's the explanation? Was your dad fast? Was your
Yes.
grandpa fast? Like, what?
Yes.
Well,
Well, my mom and dad were both fast. They grew up in the 50s at Westboro High School. They graduated 2 years apart. My dad was the fastest kid in the school, and he never played any sports. He was, in the 50s, you just hang around on, race cars and smoke cigarettes. I mean, that was the thing to do in the 50s. So that's what my dad did, but he was extremely fast. Yes. And listen, to reach the level of a 4.2, 4.3, 4.4 guys, I mean, those genetics are going to play a big part of that, no doubt. Okay. But did I train and enhance things and went out? Because I was a workout fiend in high school and in college. I just worked out all the time. And so I developed it and I enhanced it. But yeah, so it was a gift. It was my gift. It got my foot in the door in a floppy fishing shoe. I mean, it was a gift, so I can't control that. That's God's doing.
I mean, just physically, and bear with me while I ask this. It's gonna be a little awkward. Do you have massive quads? Do you have huge glutes? Like what? Like how are you physically able to do that? I mean, the NFL, all sports are still trying to catch up with you 40 years later. Like we're just now kind of, it seems people are getting faster. Finally, 40 years, after you did it in broken.
Wait, hold on. I got to ask one more question in the middle of this, Chris. How many players in the NFL went through your speed camp?
Oh, we trained over 100.
Yeah. That's crazy. Think about that, including his own son, Chris. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I personally have trained. I've trained Tony Romo, Michael Turner, the running back of the Atlanta Falcons, Robert Quinn, the big DN from the Chicago Bears, and he played with some other teams as well. Yeah, so I mean, those are probably but we trained over 100 through our franchises.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So you can train speed, and when you think about that, can a person that's got medium speed or
Yes.
To go to good speed, is it 10% difference? It usually is it 15, 20%? What do you think?
Yeah, great question. So, when we first started this out back in the 90s, that was the big knock on it. You can't teach speed. I mean, come on, that's gifted. Well, that's half true. Meaning, I always tell this, I can't make every kid a 4.2, 4.3, 4.4. Okay. It's going to take some form of genetics to get that. However, if I would have never trained, I wouldn't have reached that level. So the point is this, I can take a kid that's 5 flat and make him a 4.8. I can make a kid to 4.8, make him a 4.6. Well, those differences could be everything in the world. For example, Robert Quinn. When Robert Quinn first came to me and I was training him, he was a 4.8, 140. Training him for 3.5 months. When he did his pro day at North Carolina, he ran a 4.59.
Wow, for a big guy.
Yeah, he's 6'4.5", 272 pounds. He ran a 4.59. That's crazy, right? So, but the thing is, if he had ran a 4.81, he wouldn't have been a first round pick. He would have never made the millions of dollars of coming out that it was. Now, eventually he may have gotten to that, but because he ran that, he was a first round pick.
Right.
Changed his life. So
That's cool.
yes, and it could be, and I always say it could be a girl that wants to just make her 8th grade girls volleyball team. Well, let's go teach her to be more athletic and quick twitch and make her jump higher and all these things. You can do that.
Mhm.
And if the kid has passion and trains really hard, it's a no-brainer. They're going to increase in all areas. Well, that's up to the kid. We'll give them all the tools, but that's up to the kid. Now I no longer do that business. I'm into coaching, and I take the same philosophy though in coaching football players now. Believe the impossible, train harder, and good things happen.
Sorry, Chris, go ahead. I sorry for I'll
No,
do the
no,
next one.
that's your question. Is there any, for any of our listeners that are trying to improve their speed or agility, are there any kind of low-hanging fruit here that can make an outsized impact?
Yeah. So that's a loaded question. Okay. And to give you 30 years of knowledge of training athletes into a 1-minute answer, I will say this. Okay. I can say this. What's the difference between one player and the next player? Okay. First of all, genetics. Okay. But let's take genetics outside the box and think inside, meaning if I have two genetically the same athletes, right? Same size, same speed, same jumping ability, all these things. How can one become better than the other? What you have to do with this and this is why video analysis is so big in my mind. And we were the first ones actually in really in the country to start doing a video analysis, because when people see themselves, you can say it until you're blue in the face, but when they see themselves doing what they're doing, they're like, oh, I get it. So what you have to teach the athlete, I don't care if you're running, cutting, jumping, the athlete that spends the least amount of time on the ground is going to be quicker. And if you're quicker, you're faster. Now, quickness doesn't always result into overall speed, meaning I could take a guy that's really, really quick and in his 40, it's not so fast compared to how quick he is. Typically, if a person is fast, though, they're typically usually quick, but it's not the other way around. I hope that made sense. Okay. So the first thing that we do is we videotape them running, we videotape them cutting, we videotape them jumping. And it all literally starts with called the dorsiflexion of the foot. Okay. So when a person lands, if they're a heel person, so if you're raising your kids and you see that they're jump roping or they're running and cutting and they're landing on their heels, it's the worst thing you can do as an athlete. If an athlete's on his heels, he's slow. She's slow. So what we got to do is train them to be on the balls of their feet. That would be the very first thing I would do. And that's what I did with my 4 kids. Now, I wasn't this fanatical dad. We're going to go out, we're going to train, and we're going to be this guy. Okay. No. Okay. But what I did do is every kid wants one thing from mom and dad, especially dad of the house. What is that? Time. They just want time. They just want to spend time with dad. They just want to spend time with mom. Okay. So we spend a lot of time together. Okay. Fishing, playing games in the backyard. And at the same time, I'm training them and they don't even know it. Okay. So for example, we would play games, a jump rope game. And I would teach my kids, I said, okay, let's jump rope. But we're going to be on this concrete basketball court outside the house here, but you're going to take your shoes off. Okay. Take your shoes, socks off. And we're going to jump rope bare feet, because what that does is it forces you to stay off your heels. Jump rope on your heels one time. Try it. You won't be able to do it. It hurts. Okay. It's going to teach you to be on the balls of your feet. So this is a game and we would compete. Okay. How many times, Chad, can you do it in 1 minute, right? How many times can you do it in 10 seconds? We would compete. So I'm teaching them that competition is fun and it's hard work, but it's fun. And I've seen this the opposite, where the dad, let's go, you get out there, work out and all this stuff, but it ain't fun. And what's the kid do? He rebels and he never wants to do it again. Well, that's not what you want to teach your kid. So don't live vicariously through your kid. Let your kid develop his own skills and it's fun. How many games that me and Chad watched of my career together when he was a kid? He's 32 years old. You know how many games we've watched of me playing? Zero. It wasn't about me. I already knew he was going to have enough pressure on him as my only son. I just wanted him to live his own life. He didn't even have to play football if he didn't want to, but it was his gift. Okay. And all I did was help him enhance that gift after I knew what he wanted, not what dad wanted. I could care less what he was going to do as far as sports. Okay. But so I created games and we had fun. His dad, mom got involved a lot of times doing stuff. And when you get in this atmosphere, they start to learn these skills of landing on the foot and spending less time on the ground. And that's why Chad developed tremendous foot speed. And I could go on and on so many things, Chris, in this category. I mean, just crazy stuff. Okay. I mean, I used to teach, not just really quick, I used to teach Chad hand-eye coordination. And there was this doctor guy that I knew that had a lot of, depth perception and eye perception stuff and 3D stuff. And so we would go into a really dark room and I would turn on a strobe light. And I would turn the strobe light on really fast. So it'd be a lot more light. And we would play catch with a big ball. And then we'd go to a basketball. And then we'd go to a tennis ball. And then we'd eventually get to a marble. And we were just playing catch. He'd be 5 years old. Okay. And I got to tell you guys, man, when he was 5, 7 years old, I'd take him on camps, national camps, and do demonstrations with him. I mean, these pro athletes would stand around going, holy smokes, this kid's how old? He can do things that were crazy catching balls, right? So then what you do is you turn the strobe light down. So now it's more dark and less light. And then you still catch those balls. It trains your eye and perception. So there's a lot of things like that I could go into of working with. And now now my grandkids, Poppy is my name to my grandkids. I'll be probably working with my grandkids, and just having fun with them. That's what it was. Just have fun with them.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, you're living on the cutting edge of all this, new athletic development. Is there anything you're particularly excited about in the field of athletic development? That's
yeah. I'll be honest with you, Chris. I don't take this wrong. I put that in the rearview mirror now.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm not training athletes anymore. I don't do that. I'm full-fledged into college coaching. It's a 70 to 80 hour week for me now, and I don't have time to think about sports performance training anymore. Only in conversations like this, or if it comes to my grandkids and I'm helping them out and stuff. But not anymore. And I get questions quite often, and I'll answer them. But I'm out of the business.
Got it. Do any of your current players ever challenge you to?
Yes. Do I get challenged? Is your question? Yes. Yeah, I do. And I'll look at them and I'll say to them and I'll say, you would probably smoke me right now. Okay. How's that? Does that make you feel better? Knowing full well, let's just put it this way. The last time I actually ran a full 40-yard dash as fast as I could, I was 41 years old. Mm-hmm. I was doing a camp in Lake Zurich, Illinois. I'll never forget it. There's about 140 people there, kids. And there's this kid that was going to be a senior running back. And Dr. Shute and I, we always timed the fastest guy in the camp. And he ran a 4.43. Okay, 4.43 40-yard dash. So he was really fast. Yeah. And I'm sitting here in sweats in the top. And, it's a pretty warm day out. And he starts talking trash. And he's like, I could beat you. And so now he starts getting the whole camp involved in this whole thing. So now my competitive juices, I'm like, all right, kid, you want to race? Let's race, right? Now, from 41, the last time I actually ran full speed was when I was 33, when I retired. I had ran for, 8 years here. Yeah. And so, but I kept myself in pretty good shape, played a lot of basketball, lifted and stuff like that. So I raced a kid and I barely beat him, but I ran a 4.38 at 41 years old. My. Yeah, that was, and I told Dr. Shute when I got done, I felt like my hamstring was going to explode at the very end. He said, I'm never doing that again. Okay. However, when I was 51, I'm training my son. He's in the league now, and I'm training him in the off season, and my daughters were there, and I'm training them. They're college volleyball players, and I'm training them. And all three of us were training at Aurora Christian High School when I was coaching there. And my daughters started talking trash. Yeah, I think we can get you now, Dad. You're over 50 now. We can get you. I said, okay, you want to race? Let's race. So we raced, and I beat the girls, and I just had to go 3/4 speed to beat them. But that, I'm not bragging. But so then my son kind of pops off a little bit, right? And he's this rookie, I think, with the Minnesota Vikings. And I was like, I looked at him and I said, oh, you said you want some of your old man now too, huh? He goes, do you really want to race me, Dad? I said, not really. He said, well, let's try it. Okay. So I said, on one condition, I get to say go. Because if I say go, I know I'm going to get the jump on him, right? So, Chris, I'm sitting there and I'm like standing on the line. I just got done running the girls, and I felt pretty good. And I took off, and he took off, and I'm telling you, within 5 yards, he was already 3 steps ahead of me, and I was like, holy almost. I felt like Rocky Balboa on the beach with Apollo Creed. I was just like, go, and he just slowed by me, and I was just like, and he's looking back like Apollo Creed. Where you at, Rocky? Yeah, and I'm like, no, that was the last time I actually sprinted for 5 steps, and I swore I'm never doing it again. And I have, but I get challenged quite often. Yes.
That's amazing. So fun. All in
Oh,
good fun. All in good fun.
All in good fun, yes, sir. But I'm never gonna race a kid at a Royal University. That ain't never gonna happen. So
Yeah. Was your son as fast as you were?
no, my son was the fastest time Chad ever ran was a 4.47.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean he was quick. He what Chad was he was quicker. You know, I always tell people, I said Chad was a better wide receiver than I was. I had great linear speed, straight line speed. So I was a deep, go, come back, post, dig kind of guy, slant. He's more of a slot guy. Back when I played, we didn't have slot guys. Actually, Andre Reed of the K-Gun offense in Buffalo was really one of the original true slot guys that made a Hall of Fame career out of it. Now everybody has a slot guy. Okay. And keep in mind, in 1989, I think there was only 5 receivers that were white guys. Okay. I was one of them. Okay. So the odds were very small. So, but then came Wes Welker. And it kind of changed everything. And the slot guy became more prevalent. So you didn't really need the 4.2, 4.3 guy on the outside, 4.4 guy on the outside. It was more of that quickness. So I trained Chad for quickness than I did linear speed. Okay. There's a difference there. You train differently. Okay. I would train a track athlete differently than I would a football player. They just do 2 different things. So Chad is tremendous at making guys miss and in and out of cuts, way better than I was as a route runner. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems the league is changing. I mean, you watch guys like Cooper DeJean who are just like absurdly fast, like they're a cornerback.
Yeah.
How the heck did you get this fast?
Yeah. Well, I will say this: if you're talking wide receivers and DBs, the speed has not changed much.
Really? Okay.
No. I mean, there was always 4.2, 4.3, 4.4. Bo Jackson. I mean, Deion Sanders. I mean, I can go down the list of a lot of guys. Rod Woodson, just really fast guys. Well, where it's changed is the box. I mean, now when you have Robert Quinn's running 4.5 at 272-pound guys,
Yeah.
I mean, left tackles are like, they could go play wide receiver. I mean, it's just like crazy what these guys can do. So the box is different, but the skill positions are not much different. Yeah.
Okay. Bills Super Bowl this year.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Matter of fact, I'm going to go on the record as saying they're going to play the Packers. Mark it down. Mark it down. October 10th. I said it.
I'm with you on the Bills. I'm a Bucks fan, so I'm going Bucks on the other side.
Oh, you poor soul. The Bucks. Tampa Bay Bucks. Put the bag on the head. Bucks, right? Sorry.
A lot of
I'm messing with you now.
Yeah.
Oh, they won one.
Yeah.
Of course, they had to go get Tom Brady to do it, but that's okay.
We sure is.
Yes, you did. You made a good move there.
Well, Chris, what else? Anything else you learned here, Chris? I'll go into what I got.
Yeah. I got some great ones. Change the legacy of the name on your jersey. As a father, you are supposed to recognize your child's gifts and help develop them. If you can run a 4.25 in broken fishing shoes, do that at the combine.
Good luck with that. Yeah.
That's a statement there. Pray for discernment, wisdom, and humility daily. I think that's huge. If you can add that. To achieve greatness, you have to think you can and avoid laziness. That's just incredibly simple and to the point and very, very powerful. 2 things you can't measure in a man: how he thinks and his passion. Train when no one knows is true passion. God has a sense of humor, and a split second to react to something is your true character.
Well done, Chris.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's a couple more things I got here, right, that I took from it. But if you don't think you can, well, you can't, and you never will, right? And I think that goes to also vision, right? I feel like I always think a lot of my successes is because I've had a vision to accomplish things that were a little bigger than people thought that, that I could, right? And I think about the vision, when you had a vision to, to understand heaven as a young guy, and then in your clarity, when I think about your clarity in heaven's incredible. So of course it's pretty easy to have a great vision for a high school football team, and understand the work ethic it takes, to understand that the work it takes to get there. But without the vision, and without somebody that others respect, that carries that vision, it just doesn't happen, right? When I look at your college football, same thing. You had this incredible vision that others bought into because they respected you, they saw your work ethic, right? Look at the NFL, Super Bowl. You're playing in the backyard. You got this vision of being a Super Bowl someday, and you didn't let go of that vision. Even you're doing siding on these houses, right? As a guy that most would say, he's too old now to play college football. Of course, he's never going to play in the pros, and yet you never let go of the vision, right? And I think that in the same respect, the most important vision we all should have is what heaven looks like, right? You explained your vision of heaven really clear, all right? Charlie Kirk did that very well, right? I hope I do that well, right? But overall, right, the grand vision of what you want in your life is one thing, but the real vision that we should all strive to understand and surround ourselves with people that see it with clarity as we should, is that vision of heaven, right? Making it crowded, like our friend Charlie Kirk said, right? So I think when I think of this podcast, what you deliver to our listeners is incredible. Not just the fun story of Don Beebe, which is just really a lot of fun to read your book, Six Rings, right? It was a pleasure to read. And I don't find time to read books very often, but that one I couldn't let set down once I started reading it. The movie, your movie that people are working on right now, we even touched on that really, except before the podcast. But that movie is going to be one that inspires millions of people. And so I think it's so important for a humble guy like yourself to keep telling this story and others to tell this story, to get it out there in a movie, get it out there every way you can, because more people are going to be in heaven because of the Don Beebe story than would be otherwise by the hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. So I'm proud to be your friend, buddy, and we're blessed to have you on today.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. I appreciate it. And I guess the last words that I would say would be, everything that God has allowed me to accomplish is all centered on Him. I would have failed in every area if I would have tried it by myself. I truly understand that the success of a coach for me is centered on Christ. I'm a miserable person without Him, and I don't ever want to take credit when credit isn't due to the wrong person, and that's me.
Mm-hmm.
And I never want to come off that way to my team. I hope they know that when it's all said and done, and the impact that you leave on whomever, they must know what you stood for as a Christian man. If they don't know that, you didn't do your job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're a very successful, you're a person as yourself, and I see that same passion in you, that God has given you great successes and great blessings, but it doesn't center on Gary. It centers on the man that He created to go help people less fortunate, to do things that are always centered on Him instead of personal gains. Have we made mistakes in this area? Of course we are. We're humans. Okay, we're humans. But God knows our heart. God knows our heart, and I and you and Charlie, people like that, we just, at the end, when it's all done, we just want to hear those words.
Yeah.
Well done, my good and faithful servant. That's all.
Absolutely, man. You say it well, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see you tomorrow, man.
Yeah. Go Spartans, baby.
Go Spartans. Thanks so much. I really appreciate your time today, Don. Again, I'm blessed to be your friend, and we're blessed to hear from you today. We're this Ditch Digger CEO podcast is one that we just do for fun, and but in fun we want to make sure that a lot of people get their eyes on these because it will change people's lives. So thank you for being a huge part of our lives, our day, and this the vision that we all have to get to the most important place.
That's right. Well, I look forward to seeing you out, Gary. Chris, great meeting you, man.
God bless you, buddy.
All right, thanks, man.
Until
See ya.
next time. See you on Ditch Digger CEO.